Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Landtrip, and I'm a health sciences student success librarian here at Pacific. I provide research support and instruction for several health sciences programs, including optometry, and I also manage the graduate and professional peer tutors in the Center for Learning and Student Success. This series of videos will prepare you to complete your library assignment, and the library assignment is meant to give you a head start on your presentations for this course. And it's also an opportunity for you to receive feedback at the early stages of your research for the presentations. As you work on your presentations or on the library assignment, please reach out to me anytime with questions or for help on any part of the research process, including focusing your research topic or finding, evaluating, and citing your sources. I can work with you in person, via Zoom, by phone, or by email. You can also contact the library with any questions about things like course reserves, reserving a study room, or accessing books and articles. This video covers the beginning of the research process for evidence-based practice, including keeping a research log, clinical questions, and PICO, identifying the information you need to answer your clinical or research question. As you're working on the library assignment and your presentation, make sure to use the evidence-based optometry page of the Optometry Resources Guide. It has resources and links to help you, and you'll find a link to it in Moodle for this module. You can also access it by going to the library's website, scrolling down and clicking guides, and then clicking the Optometry Resources Guide under Optometry. As a clinician, your job will be to assess your patient, which is internal evidence, understand your patient's perspectives, consider your own clinical expertise, and consider external evidence in order to make clinical decisions. This series of videos will help you through the ask, find, and appraise steps of this process. Whenever you're doing any research, make sure to keep a research log. You can use whatever format works best for you. I just use a Google Doc and bullet points. You want to include your clinical question and then list the databases you've searched. For each database, write down the search terms and search filters you've used. This will help you keep track of your searches so you can recreate them later if you need to, and will help you make more accurate searches as you see what search terms you have used from database to database. When you find a relevant source, immediately get the full citation in APA format and the permanent link to the source. If you choose, you might also download the source. This will save you a lot of time. Finally, make any notes about the source, such as its relevance to your clinical question, its credibility, and what information it provides to help you answer your clinical question. This will also save you time because you'll be able to remember later why you saved each source. Okay, now you're ready to start your research. So the first step is to create your clinical question. This step is important because it will guide you the rest of the research process. We'll use your question to make your search terms and check that your search results provide information to help answer the clinical question. When working with a patient, it's important to include the relevant information into the question so that you find external evidence that will be useful to help guide your clinical decision making for that individual. For example, if you find information about a disease but don't consider some of their comorbidities like diabetes, characteristics like their age, or life circumstances like not having stable housing, you might find evidence that wouldn't be applicable to them or that they wouldn't be able to practically implement. To help you write a clinical question that includes all of the important information about your patient and the problem and what you would like to find out, you can use the PICO tool. For your presentations, your goal is to find evidence about certain topics, such as the 2020 rule or over-the-counter treatments for dry eye. So for these presentations, you won't have a certain patient with their specific situations in mind as you would as a clinician. Instead, you'll only have general problems such as dry eye and interventions you need to find the evidence for, such as omega-3 fatty acids. The goal of the PICO tool is to help you organize your research questions so that you can see the relevant aspects of it that you need to find, and also so that you can see more clearly what search terms you would need to include when searching for articles. We'll go through examples of this, but for the moment, think about how your goal is to use the PICO tool to identify the important aspects of your research question and to use that to generate search terms. We'll use two examples today that will be covered during the term. The first one is, does following the 2020 rule reduce eye strain? In this case, the problem is eye strain. We're considering the 2020 rule as an intervention. We're not comparing the 2020 rule with another intervention, so there isn't a comparison. And the desired outcome is just reduction of eye strain. So our main concepts that we'll need to use later as search terms are the 2020 rule and eye strain. The second example for the topic is the over-the-counter treatment for dry eye. And after doing some initial reading about over-the-counter treatment for dry eye and our background sources, which I'll show you how to do, we find that omega-3 fatty acids are one over-the-counter treatment. So our clinical or research question becomes, how are omega-3 fatty acids reducing dry eye? Effective are they in reducing dry eye? So our P or problem is dry eye. Our I or intervention is omega-3 fatty acids. Our C or comparison, if there is another, is if there's another over-the-counter treatment we're comparing omega-3 fatty acids to, such as like vitamin E or artificial tears. However, for this example, we're just going to compare the efficacy of omega-3 fatty acids with the placebo, since that's what all of the studies that I found ended up doing. So for C or comparison, we can just write placebo. Then our O or outcome is going to be our goal that we want to achieve, which is the reduction of dry eye symptoms. So from making this PICO form, we know that our main concepts that we'll need to use later as search terms are dry eye and omega-3 fatty acids. The next step is to brainstorm what you would need to know to answer these questions. Here are some basic things you might want to know for each clinical question. You might have some very basic questions that you could find in textbooks or manuals, such as what is eye strain? What are common treatments for eye strain? This would give you background information about that topic so that you can understand it better. Then you would really need to find to answer the clinical question is whether there's evidence that people who have applied the 2020 rule have reduced eye strain. You'll find the answer to these types of more specific questions in research studies. In the next video, we'll dive into the types of sources and research studies available.